The biodome's artificial dawn had broken 3 cycles ago, but Lena Voss remained curled beneath her thermal blanket, dead to the universe. Her communicator chirped its 7th unanswered alert, the sound growing increasingly frantic as it calculated the mounting delays to the morning feeding schedule. In the nursery wing, 12 Vraken cubs, apex predators in miniature, pressed their scaled snouts against the transparent barrier, golden eyes fixed on the humans' quarters with predatory focus. Station Commander Threll had warned her. Humans required excessive sleep, he'd said, their biology laughably fragile compared to the Vraken's efficient 4-hour rest cycles. Lena had laughed it off, confident in her experience with Earth's most dangerous wildlife. She'd handled Siberian tigers, raised orphaned grizzlies, even bottle-fed a juvenile saltwater crocodile. How different could alien cubs be? Very different, as it turned out. Cub Furek, the largest of the litter at nearly 40 kilograms of muscle and curiosity, tilted his head at an angle that would have seemed adorable if not for the rows of crystalline teeth. His species had conquered 17 star systems before discovering the concept of interstellar diplomacy. Now, 3 generations into the Galactic Union's civilized coexistence protocol, they struggled with a peculiar problem. Their young refused to bond with Vraken caretakers. Enter humanity, the galaxy's most baffling newcomers. The Vraken matriarchy had studied the human psychological profiles with something approaching desperation. These strange bipedal mammals formed pack bonds with virtually anything. Their own young, obviously, but also completely unrelated species. They kept carnivorous predators in their dwellings and called them pets. They rescued animals actively trying to kill them. They anthropomorphized their mechanical devices, their vehicles, even their cleaning robots. It was insane. It was inefficient. It was exactly what the cubs needed. Furek's claws clicked against the floor as he paced, his littermates whimpering behind him. The human had been with them for 30 solar rotations now, and something unprecedented had occurred. The cubs had imprinted. They no longer howled through the night cycles. They ate their nutrition paste without resistance. They even tolerated the medical scans that had previously required sedation teams. But Lena Voss had overslept, and the cubs' carefully constructed routine was disintegrating. The nursery's security system registered the override code with a soft chime. Furek's ears perked forward, recognizing the signature of his own genetic coding, a failsafe installed after the 3rd escape attempt. The barrier slid open, and 12 sets of razor-sharp claws padded silently down the corridor toward the humans' quarters. Lena dreamed of Earth, of the Montana wilderness where she'd grown up, where predators followed predictable patterns and morning came with the sun rather than a programmed algorithm. She didn't hear the door's security system yield to Furek's biometric signature, didn't sense the weight of 12 juvenile apex predators arranging themselves around her sleeping platform. A single obsidian claw, still soft enough not to pierce, but hard enough to press, touched her shoulder. Lena's eyes snapped open to find Furek's massive head inches from her face, his breath warm and smelling faintly of the jerky treats she'd smuggled aboard. Behind him, 11 other cubs sat in perfect formation, their tails wrapped neatly around their haunches in the polite waiting position she'd painstakingly taught them. "Oh, God," she whispered, her translator picking up the phrase and rendering it in Vraken as something approximating, "Oh, ancestral spirits of the first hunt." She glanced at her communicator. She was 3 hours late. 3 hours. Commander Threll was probably drafting her termination papers. Furek chirped, a sound that shouldn't have been possible from a throat designed to crack bone, and gently headbutted her arm. The gesture was pure Earthcat, something he'd learned from studying her video files of primitive human-animal bonding techniques. The other cubs took this as their signal, surging forward in a wave of scales and warmth, covering her in what could only be described as an alien puppy pile. Lena couldn't help it. She laughed. The sound echoed through her quarters, picked up by the station's monitoring systems, triggering alerts across 3 departments. In the command center, Threll froze mid-transmission, his crest flattening in confusion. Human laughter in the presence of unsupervised predator cubs should have indicated psychological breakdown. Instead, the biometric scanners showed Lena's stress hormones dropping to their lowest levels since her arrival. All right, Lena said, pushing herself upright as 12 cubs attempted to both help and hinder the process. I know I'm late. Let's get you all fed before Command decides to feed me to your parents. The cubs chirped in unison, a chorus of approval that sounded like breaking glass mixed with wind chimes. They formed an orderly line, another impossible feat for Vraken Young, and followed Lena toward the nursery, their tails held high in contentment. Commander Threll arrived at the feeding chamber to find chaos transformed into routine. Lena moved through the space with practiced efficiency, distributing meals, checking temperatures, and somehow managing to provide individual attention to each cub despite their identical appearance to Vraken eyes. Furyk shadowed her steps, occasionally herding his siblings back into line with gentle nips. You overslept, Threll stated, his translator rendering the observation in flat human tones. I did, Lena admitted, not pausing in her work. Furyk woke me. The cubs breached containment. They used the emergency protocols I taught them. Threll's secondary eyelids flickered, the Vraken equivalent of a raised eyebrow. You taught them to escape? I taught them problem-solving, Lena corrected, scratching Furyk behind his auditory ridges. They identified a problem, absent caretaker. They formulated a solution, wake the caretaker. They executed the plan without injury or property damage. I'd call that a successful learning outcome. The commander watched as Furyk leaned into the human's touch, a deep rumbling emanating from his chest that Vraken scholars had classified as a stress response. Except Furyk's vitals showed perfect contentment, his pupils dilated with what Threll's database unhelpfully labeled as mammalian affection indicators. The matriarchy's xenopsychologists don't understand your species, Threll finally said. You bond with our children faster than we do. You teach them independence while demanding discipline. You sleep through alarms but wake for a cub's touch. He paused, searching for words in a language that had no concept for what he was trying to express. How? Lena looked up from where she was now surrounded by cubs, all vying for her attention, and smiled with that peculiar human expression that showed teeth without threat. Commander, where I come from, we have a saying. It takes a village to raise a child. Your cubs don't need someone perfect. They just need someone who shows up, even if sometimes they have to come wake you up first. Furyk chirped in agreement, and the galaxy's most feared predator species settled down for their morning nap in a pile around their humans' feet, proving once again that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology or their tactics, but their inexplicable ability to make a family out of anything with a heartbeat.